Hello and welcome. I'm Master Lama Rasaji, and this is our Monday edition of Rasaji Speaks. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, the weekend after Christmas and Advent as we move forward. Today's topic is taxing times and tranquil minds. Taxing times and tranquil minds. Balancing physical responsibility with inner peace. Well, wow. So I look at 5 years ago how many 1099s that were issued, and I look at how many 1099s that are being issued. Yesterday, I was dealing with that a little bit. You look around the world and, you hear in scripture, render to Caesar what Caesar and render to God what's God. God asks for basically 10% of what we generate to a cause that we believe in. Any more than that is phenomenal abundance, and we definitely have a giving, prosperous heart and are full of generosity. But I'm thinking to myself, for so many years on so many continents, there's two chains of thinking, right? Part of it is that I learned from my first prosperity mentor about 4 decades ago. And that was, you know, what do we get for it? Well, in those days, 40 years ago, we didn't have such an expanded government. It wasn't, 1/3 of GDP. It was incredible what our government has become. But back 40 years ago, they fixed the roads. It was fair to Midland, especially when they did it along with private sector. They helped build some of the hospitals. That wasn't bad when private sector was involved. They build schools. Well, that's kind of been a mess the last 20 years. That's why private parochial school and homeschooling is doing so much. Security, well, up until about 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said security wasn't bad and it was worth that. But after letting 8 to 12 million people come across the border unaccounted for, it's like, what are we getting for what we're paying? So there's definitely a part of release. But what I've learned from a Stouch accountant over the last 12 to 15 years is what I was also taught in my first prosperity workshop. Everything's negotiable to a city yoga master, including death and taxes. Why is that important? Because I was taught in the 10th grade in a geography class that forevermore they were not. You were going to pay whatever the tax bite was. And guess what? Average male lives about 55, 75 years old. Average female, about 75 to 90 years old. And you didn't have much to say about that. Well, that's not the city yoga's tradition. Legally, there's over 30 different ways that you can save on your tax bite. And then if you're practicing city yoga, Sadhanas on a daily basis, you're learning to be the eye of the storm, even when you're sitting down and you got that old abacus and you're counting what you used to be. And hopefully it won't turn you into the Ebenezer Christmas Scrooge that sometimes we can become. And there's an element of detachment has to be involved. And I think that's part of the setup. In other words, what is your Viragi state of consciousness? Because when you're in business for as long as Lamaji's been, which is over 4 decades, then you start to become more detached about it. Then, like Master David says, you look at it, it's a cost of kind of doing business. But what is that cost? Well, from administration to new administration, it's usually a little differently. And thank God the new administration is probably going to cut the overall taxation somewhere between 25 and 50%. That's going to be huge for all of us because that puts more money for investment, more money for hiring. You know, the first and most important thing that I learned a long time ago. It honors the first pillar of the science of abundance. Give what you want, you know. I'm excited today that I have to sit down and actually go through 25 to 30 1099s. It's really powerful. It says that we are growing as an organization, and you can feel good that you're helping all these households. That's important, right? That's important. It really comes down that the small to medium sized business is really the backbone of our country and most other countries about what goes on. They definitely should get the biggest tax benefit because of the generosity and the charity that's manifested in creating legitimate work for people. And then what kind of work and what kind of vibration are you getting from that work? Well, we're very mission driven at COC and PFL, if you haven't realized that. Extremely mission driven. And the mission driven businesses and services radiate and vibrate the highest of frequencies. So it's a blessing to be a part of this team. And it is a team, and it's amazing. And outside of investing in yourself first, the next thing to really invest in is other people. And Lamaji puts that the highest priority. That's why our biggest cost is usually what the world would consider labor, that Lamaji considers service and service of the divine. When you really examine all of that, maybe it's not so bad after all. It's interesting how we're getting a great team that's working together. And it's also a blessing that taxes and other things are going to be cut. But I believe it's another sadhana to teach us to stay peaceful, to stay calm, to continue to pray, meditate, and move forward and arrive alive in 25. Baraka Bashai. May the blessings be to you and to your glorious family. And I'll see you tomorrow, Tuesday, on Rasaji Speaks. God bless you all.